How'd it go?
Okay, welcome to our New York Giants Preservation Society meeting for tonight, July 9th, with Jeff Cohen and Len Aberman. These gentlemen have a baseball and barbecue podcast, very successful. Uh, Believe it or not, we'll sprinkle in some Giants during this as well. It's just thought it'd be a little break from the summer um, with uh, with with cooking, which everybody seems to enjoy doing. Next week, we'll have Ron Backer. Ron will be talking about baseball goes to the movies, and there'll be some Giant stuff in there as well. Be a nice summer respite. So before we turn the program over to Jeff and Len, just want to welcome Russ Stanley, Giant royalty in here. Russ, great to see you. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Welcome to the New York Giants Preservation Society.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. I'm going to take that floor and get out of here because I could use a new floor. You know, they're expensive. But boom. Okay. You can expect more of that on our show.
Hanging around with Mars there, Len.
Len and I are going to present our presentation that we gave to the Cooperstown Symposium. I see Perry, if you want to stick around for this is giving the same presentation.
I just want to give Gary fair warning because I seem to recall that you spent at least 5 minutes praising him effusively and telling everybody how wonderful he is. Yes. And I'm sitting there like, okay, come on. Let's move it on. But
well,
no,
he
Gary,
paid us.
Yes. No, Gary, they recognized you with all due
Thank you.
respect and honor that you definitely deserve. So
thank you, sir.
So I'm going to start off, and Len and I are going to go back and forth. So Len and I are thrilled to talk to you about what's been a passion project for us for the last 9 years and going over 350 episodes now. And has opened doors that we never thought was possible. Like before we began, like Perry was saying, like thank some people who made this possible, especially Gary Mintz of the New York Giants Preservation Society, who encouraged us to write a proposal. And thanks to all our family and friends who have supported us on our journey.
And before I begin, I just want to thank everyone for attending tonight and for inviting us on. You must have ran out of guests, so we are glad to be the bottom of the barrel. At least we're in the barrel. So thank you for having us. It seriously though, this podcast for us, it's a journey. Like Jeff said. It began with the two of us just standing by a barbecue grill, talking baseball many times on many different days. And finally, an idea was hatched, and it has become an obsession in a very good way. Why don't we make a podcast? How hard can that be? And that's the same thing that many other people ask because there are millions of podcasts. Most do not make it past 5 episodes. We are in the very small minority of podcasts that survive and flourish. So a lot of people may be wondering, what it takes to do a podcast, and there's so much involved that it starts to discourage people from doing it, and we are proof that it can be done.
Well, to create a good show, a show that other people besides your immediate family will tolerate to listen to, you need to pick a topic that's going to be of interest to you before you worry about if it's interested to others. In our case, we picked two topics that we thoroughly enjoy, baseball and barbecue. However, we're at the Baseball Hall of Fame, but there is a Barbecue Hall of Fame. But we're going to focus on baseball. We can talk a little bit more about barbecue, but this is a topic that is loved by millions, for which there are thousands of podcasts.
So once we chose baseball, we had to decide on what type of baseball podcast we wanted to be. Did we want to focus on a specific team or fantasy baseball or baseball history or analysis or news or current daily play? So you could see where we're headed with this. There are many different aspects of baseball, as is obviously you guys with the New York Giants Preservation Society. This is certainly a podcast can be taken from this, and it's kind of sort of is a form of podcasting. But you have to pick. You really need to decide on a topic, and then as your show grows, it could change. And that's sort of what happened to us. We started by discussing the current game, whether it was current players, teams, or even rules that we liked and disliked. But as we persevered, we came to the realization that it was not the direction that we wanted. We tended to enjoy the rich history of baseball, including any blemishes the game has had, and we know that the game has had some. So we veered in that direction. Then there are other questions to address, such as choosing a hosting service, choice of music, designing a logo, and other things to make your show memorable and that stand out from all the others. We can come back to those later, many of those choices which need to be made. But regarding the hosting service, if anyone's curious about that, Jeff and I were cheap in the beginning. So we took the free version. We originally were on Buzzsprout. And it was a 90-day, wasn't a subscription, it was a 90-day free thing. And once you hit 90 days, the episodes fall off. If you don't pay for it, they fall off. Where they go, I don't know. But that is why the first, 20-something episodes of the show are lost. And it might be a good thing, actually, that they are, because you get better as you practice. And I think that has happened to us.
Yeah, we're going to refer to those as the lost episodes because they have not been archived out in the cyberspace. But realizing we wanted to do something different, and we were a month out from February, which was Black History Month, we said, why don't we do something on the Negro Leagues Museum? And so we searched the internet, and we found out there is a Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City, Missouri.
So I called the museum. We were hoping to have a docent agree to come on with us. And they put me through to the museum president. Now, you all being very knowledgeable baseball people, you may know that the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City is Bob Kendrick. Bob Kendrick, who's one of the greatest baseball storytellers I have ever heard, he became our first guest. And we didn't know it at the time. But it was a tremendous honor to speak to, again, one of baseball's best storytellers who, going to put my opinion in here, I feel should one day have some sort of mention in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So we were still in our infancy, and we were using just a microphone, holding it close to a cellular device, and our sound was less than optimal, which needed to be addressed.
Yeah, yes, I literally took the phone and put it next to the microphone, and that is how we actually did our first interviews. It wasn't pretty, but an important and pleasurable thing when making a podcast is cultivating the relationships. That is something that we've been doing for 9 years. One of those relationships led us to a game changer. We heard that Greg the Bull Lazinski had a barbecue concession at Citizens Bank Park. We tried unsuccessfully to arrange an interview. However, we mentioned that to somebody who had a connection. Next thing you know, we were at Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Park, had a one-on-one, well, Len and I, 2-on-1 interview with Greg Lazinski, and we had incredible barbecue. He actually gave us one of everything from the concession, which was, oh my God, so much meat, a private stadium tour, press parking, and tickets to the game. And this one we realized that how many unexpected doors the podcast can open.
And if I can mention a funny story about that day.
Oh my gosh, here we go.
We felt, first of all, we felt like how it must be when a famous person goes there and they take you around and they give us a little tour. We got free tickets. We parked in the press parking. And they give us this tray of food just for the two of us. It was a lot. And there was one turkey leg on this tray, and we couldn't eat it. And we were there. It was a hot day, and it was early. And Jeff was like, "What are we going to do with this? What? I can't eat anymore." So Jeff wanted to take it home But
I don't see any of the people. It's just
Because your camera's probably turned.
but we did not, because that turkey leg I don't think would have survived the day. And if we had eaten that at the end of the day, when we got back to New York, I think we would have gotten pretty sick. So, but we just kind of took pieces off of it, because at that point we were satiated. Let's put it that way. Anyway, after the bull, we were back to doing phone interviews. But the one thing that we had not improved on yet was our sound. So initially we purchased this cheap USB microphone from Amazon. Now I often joke that but it's not too far from the truth, that 2 tin cans and string may have sounded better than what our shows sometimes sounded like. We would record interviews, like Jeff said, onto a cell phone and then play them back into a microphone. Sometimes they sounded okay, but other times they did not. We were taking a chance that interviews with Cleon Jones, Ed Randall, Ron Swoboda, and many others would sound okay. We almost took podcast gold and spun it back into straw.
Then COVID happened. And for the podcasting world, this can be summed up by one word: Zoom. Zoom enhanced our sound. It gave us the opportunity to actually see our guests. We found that in-person interviews are the best, but this is a pretty close second. As far as sound, there was no more static between the phone and the microphone. With COVID happening, people had more free time, and it made it easier to book authors, book guests, and to make barbecue. This opened a lot of doors for us. Introduced us to the authors. Incredible books were being written, but the authors could not go on their book tour. A group of baseball authors actually created what they called the Pandemic Baseball Book Club, where writers get to sell their books. We found many of these authors were willing to come on our show to promote their books, and we are friendly with a lot of them today. I'm sure you know of David Krell. He was on your show a couple of times, so he's one of our frequent guests.
So there's a hint for booking guests, which relates to what Jeff just said, and that's some guests may not be available, or they may not want to come on an independent podcast, or you may not just be able to obtain their contact information. But once they write a book, they become a lot more accessible, usually through a publicist. So that is how we got a lot of our great authors. Some of them are former players, like Jim Cott, who came on. He had written a book. We got him on. Darryl Strawberry, who was just on an episode, our episode 349, 349?
349.
We had tried to get him. We actually met him in person at a dinner, the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame dinner. And when I met him, I said, Darryl, we have this podcast. We'd love you to come on. He was like, well, I don't really do podcasts. But when he wrote this book, he did our podcast. So it was great. So another recommendation, and this I have a feeling would never apply to any of you, because I know that you're all knowledgeable and love baseball, but read the book. We've had so many authors that come on and they express their appreciation for our having read their work, and it makes for a much better discussion. So that is a very good point. And it's another thing that David Krell can attest to.
Yes, we actually had one author who wrote the book. It was called Baseball the Movie. And he went on a radio show, and so the host asked him to tell him about the movie. It wasn't about the movie. It was about baseball movies, but this guy obviously did not read the book. So yes, and very important to actually read the books. The relationship we made is a huge bonus. One of the reasons that we were there is because Gary Mintz, and we thanked him in the beginning. He told us about the symposium. Gary is only one of many people who we met due to the podcast. Now we consider their friends today. Rennie LaRue, who is the head of the New York State Halls of Fame. Perry Barber is here. Donna Muscarella. Robert Elias, who's been on your show. Norm Coleman, who's been on our show. Greg Fegley, who actually we met at the Baseball Hall of Fame. It was nice meeting him. And Harvey Weinstein and the others we met at the New York Giants Preservation Society party back last December. And I'm sure there are many we are friendly with. But relationships lead to others. In the beginning, Bob Kendrick led us to Brian Lopinto, and he of the Hinchcliffe Stadium restoration. He had no idea who we were, but he invited us out to see Hinchcliffe Stadium before the restoration, and we took a tour there. The same day, we met someone named Jeff Pinetar Cornhouse, who played 1840, 1850 baseball rules. We met him during the day, and he introduced us to Marjorie Adams, who was the great granddaughter of Daniel Lucius Doc Adams. The great baseball historian John Thorne said that Doc Adams is the most important figure not in the Hall of Fame. Think about it. We had Marjorie Adams, who was only 2 generations removed from one of the originators of baseball. Just think about that. That's unbelievable. We were able to interview her 4 months before she passed away in 2001.
Our show, as we mentioned before, includes modern-day baseball, but as you've heard, features our love for the game's history. And that history includes other leagues, such as the aforementioned Negro Leagues, but also the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which gave us the opportunity to interview former players, Maybelle Blair and Shirley Berkovich. We actually probably had the last interview with Shirley Berkovich, who passed away shortly after our interview. So it serves as an archive. A lot of these interviews are, they're out there for people to listen to for years and years from now, and they really serve as an archive. We also had Anika Orrick, and she wrote a book on the All-American Women's League. So without even realizing it, like I said, we are preserving history, and I think it's not only is it exciting to do that, but I think it's become almost an obligation. It becomes an important thing to preserve history of the game. And the game's great history, by the way, as you know, it's not exclusive to players. It also includes managers. These are all people that we've had on. I'm not going to mention the names right now, but we've had managers, executives, broadcasters, mascots, team chefs, public address announcers, umpires, agents, reporters, radio personalities, fellow podcasters, general managers, college coaches, and so many others that are connected to the game.
And once we upped our game, we were not content to do the same thing week after week, and we tried to improve ourselves and to differentiate our show and to continue to make it stand out. And one of those times happened to be in 2023 when Len and I took a trip to Kansas City, and we went to the Negro Leagues Museum to meet Mr. Kendrick. We took in a Royals game, and we even visited a prior guest, 1986 world champion Ed Hearn. Ed was extremely gracious to us. He invited us to his home. We went around. He showed us all his memorabilia. We were able to put on his World Series ring. And Ed is like one of the only people who won a championship at each level of the minor leagues and the major leagues. Ed took us. We then took Ed to Slaps Barbecue, where we introduced him to Artie Davis, who happens to be a barbecue Hall of Famer, and now we're proud we made a shidduch. Now they remain friends.
And we didn't expect that to happen. We made the trip. Ed Hearn was in poor health, but he invited us to his home. We're sitting there with him, and we thought we were then going to meet Artie Davis for barbecue. And Ed Hearn asked, "Where are you going?" And the place we mentioned had outdoor seating. And he said, "I'll go with you." And the next thing you know, we're having barbecue with Ed Hearn and a Hall of Fame barbecue guy. And it was amazing because we really did. They formed a friendship that day. And Artie Davis invited Ed Hearn. He invited us as well, but we couldn't go to the induction ceremony for the Barbecue Hall of Fame. So it was amazing. And we were so happy because Ed even said to us, he said, you know, I don't really have a lot of friends, I guess because of his medical condition and all of that. And it was just, it made us feel very good that we brought these two together. And that makes me think of all the many baseball-related guests we've had on who are huge fans of barbecue. And this is one of the things that makes our show different. And when you're doing a podcast, you want to be different. Some of those guests include Howard Johnson, Jim Kern, broadcaster Joe Davis, Greg Olson, Ron Say, Dave Dravecki, Steve Traxel, who you know as the human rain delay. He even did an intro for our show, and I would play it, but basically it says, "This is Steve Traxel, and I like to pitch, and I used to pitch like I like my barbecue, low and slow." And and he loves it. And there are so many others that love to barbecue. I mean, Greg the Bull Lizinski used to say he would get home from a game and he'd be out there at 2 a.m. His neighbors must have loved that, he said. But he would be out there with his little kettle grill and he'd be grilling right after the game.
While doing a podcast is fun, it's tremendous, a lot of work. The part that our listeners to obviously do not see or hear are the countless hours spent cultivating guests, reading the books, editing the audio, writing show notes, scheduling interviews, and promoting the episodes. Although not essential, we recommend sending your guests a confirmation a few days before the interview and a thank you note after each interview because professionalism matters.
Yeah, we actually had someone, I guess it was at this presentation, and we had sent them a thank you letter, and they still remembered it. They kept it, and they mentioned it to us, how it meant a lot to them to receive that from us. So you just never know. These little touches, they mean a lot. We love doing this show. And as we said, the people we have spoken with make all the effort worth it. Sometimes you can relentlessly research a guest and still be surprised by a story they tell. 2 of those situations come to mind. So the first is from someone we never expected to have a baseball story, and that's Clint Cantwell. Now, Clint came on with us as a barbecue guest, but someone by the name of Meathead, and how he got that story is another, it would make another great story, but it has to do with All in the Family, which he watched with his father. And he told us that Clint had a connection with baseball, as he was involved with a historic baseball. Now, I don't know, in this crowd, I'm not sure what the feelings are towards this individual or not, but it was the one that Barry Bonds hit for his record-breaking home run, number 756. So I certainly do not need to tell this group about the controversy regarding that home run, as the ball currently resides in the Hall of Fame, but the batter of the ball, we know, does not. So the person who caught the ball put it up for auction, and fashion designer Mark Echo bought it for $752,000. Clint was the marketing guru for Echo's company. They came up with a national survey with choices as to what to do with the ball. Among the choices was to either blast it into space or put an asterisk next to the ball. The asterisk option won out. Our guest Clint was the handler for the ball, and he took it with him onto various talk shows. He then was tasked with branding the ball. This story is one of the wildest stories connected to baseball history, and it came from a barbecue guest.
And the second story was told by Jeff Mangold. He was a strength and conditioning coach, mostly for the New York Yankees, but he spent a few seasons with the Mets. What is significant about Coach Mangold is he was the one who kept the famous broken bat from the 2000 World Series when Roger Clemens pitched to Mike Piazza. After holding on to the splintered bat for many years, for over 2 decades, he sold it to finance his children's college education. We feel that everyone has a story, and hearing these we love hearing these great baseball stories. Sometimes the stories we hear are from friends and relatives, since the people are no longer with us, therefore unable to tell their own story.
Here's a perfect example of that. So recently we had the opportunity to speak to Ed Banas. Now, I am pretty sure that no one on this Zoom has heard of Ed Banos, but maybe a few of you have heard of his father, Les Banos. So Les Banos was the Pittsburgh Pirates photographer who has superb photos of Roberto Clemente that are on display in the Roberto Clemente Museum. But the story is fascinating. See, Les was born in Hungary and was a spy for the Allies and saved over 200 people during World War II. Each time he did that, he put his life at risk. He forged papers. He told the story, well, his son did, about a time when he came into town and there was a man who was about to be killed in this town square. They were about to shoot him. They were going to execute him because he was not wearing the Jewish symbol, the star, the yellow star on his clothing, and they were about to murder him. He went over, said, I will take this man to headquarters and I will make sure that he is dealt with. He put him in his car. He drove away. And as he drove away, he said to the man, you're safe now. And he saved his life. So he was a hero. After the war, he came to the United States and he settled in Pittsburgh. As a photographer for the Pirates, he became very close with Roberto. So close, in fact, that he was supposed to be on that ill-fated plane. The only reason he wasn't was because the Pittsburgh Steelers had a playoff game that weekend as a result of the previous week's immaculate reception. And so he had to stay and photograph the game.
We have spoken to approximately 300 baseball-related people. All of them are highlight for us, but I'd like to call out a few. Our first Baseball Hall of Famer, as Lennon mentioned, was Jim Cott. He had a fascinating career, three-time world, and we had on three-time world champion from your San Francisco Giants, Jeremy Affeldt, who told us that the Giants made a mistake in his contract in Jeremy's favor, and Jeremy had every right to keep this extra money. It was $500,000, but he was honest, and that led him to giving the money back to the San Francisco Giants. And for his next contract, he was rewarded even more because of that honesty. He also, I don't know if you know this, but he also saved his dog's life when the dog was choking, and he gave the dog mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So he was a hero for the animal community as well. We also had on Dave Dravecki, a cancer survivor, and who now refers to himself as the one-armed bandit. Yes, he's the only one who can actually call him that. I would never do that, but he's the one who told us that. We've had on Ray Negron, who in his youth was spray painting Yankee Stadium, and George Steinbrenner caught him, and instead of prosecuting him, he gave him a job. That was over 50 years ago. He's still with the Yankees. He's befriended many players, and he has fascinating stories to tell us about his time with the New York Yankees for over 50 years.
So I think you can tell from what we've said so far that podcasting can open many doors of which you may not even realize exist. For one of us, those doors was, for us, I should say, for both of us, one of those doors was learning of the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame induction dinners. The dinners are hosted each November in Troy, New York, by its founder and director, Rennie LaRue, and his top-notch committee. These dinners are a chance to meet other baseball-minded people and those associated with the game. We meet and schmooze with many baseball people, including Trader Jack McKeon, who is sharp as a tack in his 90s, and he is funny as anything. By the way, these dinners are not exclusive to anyone in podcasting or sports. I know Perry has been to many of them, and they are, all you have to do is buy a ticket, and you can go to the dinner. They do sell out fast. I believe this year Roger Clemens is one of the inductees that is going in. But anyway, Rennie does a great job, and we cultivate those relationships into interviews on our show.
You know, Len mentioned trader Jack McKeon, who was, by the way, Dave Dravecki's first manager. So he gave us a great story on that as well. And also last year, I think it was last year, might have been the year before, but another San Francisco world champion was inducted, not indicted, inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame. And that was New Yorker who went to St. John's University, Joe Panic. So we've had Rennie LaRue on our show several times, and as of this year, we have a second podcast called the New York State's Hall of Fame podcast, which features interviews from the New York State Baseball, Hockey, and Basketball Hall of Fames, which Rennie also founded and runs.
So we've interviewed the San Diego Chicken, the former and current president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, Jeff Idelson and Josh Rowich. We conduct our own Hall of Fame show where we and special guests debate the ballot and choose who we would put in. We do that every year. And we don't just have baseball people do it with us. We've had Bill Chuck, who is a baseball researcher historian, Scott Crawford, director of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, Kurt Bavacqua, Brett Moore, Doug Scheiding, who is a pitmaster out of Texas, quite a well-known pitmaster now. He represents Traeger. His rubs are sold in Home Depots all across the country, and yet he is a huge baseball fan with an opinion like all of us, and he comes on with all of them, and we just debate who's going to get into the Hall of Fame that year.
Two of my favorite episodes happen to be roundtables. We spoke with Ed Kranepool, Kevin Kernan, and Irene Hodges about Gil Hodges' chances for induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Obviously, that happened a couple of years ago, and we like to think we had a little something to do with his eventual election into the Hall of Fame. Also, Bob Ryan and Bill Chuck wrote a book called In Scoring Position, where Bob Ryan would publish selective games where he scored the game, a dying art, by the way. And, one of the games was with a friend of the show, Steve Traxel. On May 6, 2000, Steve Traxel was pitching against Pedro Martinez, and Trax beat Pedro 2-1. We had Bob, Bill, and Steve Traxel talk about that game 22 years after it happened.
There are, of course, pitfalls while producing a podcast, and those can come from technology. Some interviews we do in person, but the ones we do via Zoom, we need to rely on the internet and good microphones. While we have good microphones and hopefully a strong internet connection, sometimes our guests may not. Now, if you're doing a podcast, there's nothing wrong with telling your guests to repeat something important that they said due to the video and audio freezing up or the volume being too low. There are times when you know from the beginning that the sound quality is not great, and then you have to try and improve that during editing. Jeff has become a master editor. He does the editing for our show, and it is not easy, but he really does a great job. Also, we mentioned there's the need for a hosting service, and that decisions need to be made regarding music, artwork, including a logo, and anything else which may make your podcast stand out from others. And if you have any questions regarding that, we'd be happy to answer afterwards, or you can email us or whatever, because part of doing a podcast is the community that you develop. You can, but it's never going to be as good if you don't let others help you. We have had so many people that tell us, oh, this would be a great guest. Or, you should book this author, or so-and-so is going to be in town, you should get them. And you just never know where the help is going to come from, and people want to offer help. We've had pitmasters help us get baseball guests, believe it or not. And we've had people, we had Brad Paisley on the show, and getting Brad Paisley was not someone, country superstar Brad Paisley, who's, known as Mr. Moore Baseball for singing the national anthem at the Dodger games. And we never would have expected that, but we had someone else on the show, and he was friends with Brad Paisley, and the next thing you know, we have Brad Paisley on. So you just never know. You have to be open to all those connections.
Yeah, we also had on a sauce maker named Danny Wilk, and he has something called Dad's Barbecue Sauce. Anyway, his best friend happens to be Joe Girardi, who will be being inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame. So hopefully we'll get Joe Girardi on as well. So we're in our 9th year, and we've learned a lot and accomplished a lot, and we just feel like we're getting started. Our passion and the passion of baseball fans keep us going, and we're happy to be part of it.
So, to finish our discussion, but certainly, hopefully, there will be questions. And, Jeff just said, we're just getting started. Believe it or not, our 351st episode comes out Saturday, and that will feature an interview with Terry Collins, former manager of a number of teams, especially, the New York Mets, taking them to the World Series. And we're also going to have 2 chefs on there that own numerous restaurants in London and have cookbooks. So that is going to be episode 351. Is podcasting fun?
Yes.
Is it easy?
No.
But it has been worth every single episode. We hope that you will listen to the Baseball and Barbecue podcast. I often joke that the hosts, I used to say the hosts suck, but the guests are great. Now I say after all these episodes, the hosts are so-so. We're getting better, but the guests are still great. We had an episode recently with a very special discussion with Gary Carter, Baseball Hall of Fame, Gary Carter's widow, Sandy, and her children, all 3 of her children. And it was such a special episode because they talked about, we all know about Gary Carter's on the field accomplishments. That you can read about that. But the stories that they told about their father and what he meant to them, and the numerous things he did as a human being, that was just extremely special. So I hope that if you haven't listened to that episode, I certainly recommend it. And I thank you for inviting us on to your wonderful society, and we're open to questions.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You might want to tell everybody how do they get to your link for your podcast.
We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on We're on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Baseball and Barbecue Podcast, and we will definitely we will.
And what is the link?
Well, our website is www.baseballandbbq.weebly.com, and I'll put it in the comments.
Wonderful. I got one comment and one question for both of you. You guys mentioned archiving the history. That is, to me, so important. That's why we started our YouTube channel, because nobody knows how long any of us are going to be around. And if anybody wants to learn about the New York Giants or the San Francisco Giants, we have ties in. That's why I set up our YouTube channel, so that anybody with interest, long after we're gone, hopefully they could find it. And, apple pie, Chevrolet, and barbecue. I mean, doesn't get much better than that. And the last thing I have, you both can answer. What do you like, grilling, smoking, or barbecuing? And what's your go-to meal?
Jeff, go ahead.
Leonard?
Okay, I'll go first.
Well, okay. I like both grilling and smoking meats.
And there's the technology failing.
Frozen here.
There it is.
Talk about technology. Yeah.
All
Am,
right,
am
try
I
again.
frozen,
All
or
right. So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear both of you now. Jeff, go ahead.
Go ahead. Jeff, are you still answering your favorite
okay.
food?
So, yeah.
What do you
So
like?
I'll say that I like both grilling and smoking. I have both and also have a barrel smoker where you hang meat. That's what I do for ribs. But my chicken I usually put on the pellet grill, which is a smoker, which is really good. And for just hamburger, hot dogs, steak, I'll just go right to the Weber grill. Leonard?
Okay. Before I answer, I'm just going to say I see there are hands up, and I love that. So I hope we get to answer everyone's questions or hear your comments or whatever your hands are up for. So, but as far as I love to smoke the meat, um, you know, I grilled for many years, but what got me into it was I started, and if anybody is looking to just get into it and an easy thing to do, you can either an ugly drum smoker. It's called the Pit Barrel. Price range is not expensive. You could get it in the I think like between $200 and $300, which for smoker is very good. Or the Weber Smoky Mountain, which is a called a bullet smoker, and you can so it's an introduction smoker, but you don't need to get too fancy. And I love to make ribs. I also love to make pastrami, which it's for anyone who likes Katz's pastrami. I'm not going to say it competes with it, but you take a corned beef and you smoke it and you put on the correct rub, and then you get a pastrami. It's very it's good. It's good. So I like to do that. What else? I like to make beef ribs are great. So yeah, it's brisket and pulled pork, all of these things. It's time consuming as far as the time it takes. You don't get home and say, "Oh, I'm hungry for a brisket," and then 12 hours later you eat. But once you put it on the smoker, you don't have to keep tending it. So it goes, and it's kind of like it's passive. It's going. You can go do something and come back to it. And I like to smoke the food.
Thank you. Mars, go ahead.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. This was interesting and, a little unusual. We've had Eric on who does podcasts, and this was pretty interesting. So I have two questions. One relates to Barry Bonds when you talked about an asterisk. It's been a while now, and I don't remember they talked about an asterisk for his home run record because of the steroids, but I believe he deserved an RX.
But bump.
Yeah. Now the question back to barbecue now. So if you were grilling, what type of fuel do you use? Both you guys.
Well, if we're when I use a pellet grill, it's more wood pellets. That is, it's being augered into the firebox into the grill. With the drum smoker, I'm using either a charcoal briquettes or what do they call Len? The other briquettes, the wood briquettes, and I
Yeah.
put a piece of like cherry wood or something like that to give it a little more flavor. And just when you're using the Weber, I just use obviously it's just gas.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Please.
You buy a big bag of Lasari mesquite, and then you could buy either mesquite wood chips that you soak for about an hour in water, and after you put the mesquite in the grill, then you by hand you take out the wood chips, and then you could put your baby backs or your steak or your chicken or I mean, it's outstanding the flavor you get from that. So
Yeah.
try
So
that.
I like that suggestion, but I'm just going to say you have to be careful with mesquite. Mesquite can definitely, you overdo with mesquite, you're going to get a bitter flavor. So you got to be really careful. With me, I tend to use more fruit woods like apple, cherry. I'll use pecan, a little lighter because it's not as heavy as smoke. Some people don't like that heavy smoke. Um, I'll use oak sometimes, hickory, but mesquite's a good flavor. Just don't overdo it. That's all I'm going to say. Also, I see Brett. I see Brett Moore on.
When you
Am
put
I?
the wood chips on, they come in different flavors. They come mesquite, cherry,
Yes.
apple, pecan, and that kind
Yes.
of lightens it up a little bit.
Hmm.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mars.
Thank you,
I was
guys.
just going to say, I see Brett Moore, who we just mentioned in our presentation. Hi, Brett.
Hey guys, it's a delight. Thank you so much. I was sorry I was a little late. It's still working hours out here on the West Coast.
No, glad you joined. So, anyway, I'm sorry, Gary. You go ahead.
I
Whoever.
just wanted to mention Russ Stanley. If Mars wants to tell some of those bad jokes, please refrain him from entering the ballpark. Bill Klink, you are up.
Thank you very much, Gary and Len and Jeff. Gary always brings us interesting guests, and today is certainly no letdown there. You won't find this anywhere else, probably, but hey, you've encouraged me. I'm thinking about a smoker, but I don't know if I can get it past the HOA here. Everything has to go through the HOA here in Sun City, but. Uh, you've talked about doing it yourself, but I want to give you kind of a city or two cities. You tell me the style you kind of like more. Tell me, Kansas City or Nashville?
Well, I'll tell you, that's easy for me. I've never been to Nashville. So Kansas City is is king for me. Arthur Bryant's, where we actually stood on line, and you go to the counter, you take a tray, they put the food on, you just leave it. And it was just fantastic, fantastic barbecue.
I'll tell you. We, I've never been to Nashville, but we hadn't been to Kansas City, and it's very funny. We're on a baseball Zoom, and we're getting barbecue questions. That's kind of like the athletes. They come on, and like Steve Traxel came on, and we had a pitmaster with us, and we didn't want to take any more of its time, and we said, Steve, we'll let you go because we don't want to take your time. And he said, but wait, I have more questions. So we had the pitmaster and Steve Traxel talk all about brisket, and we just sat back and let them discuss. But as far as the barbecue, we had Robert Wool on. Now, if for you guys, Robert Wool, Arliss.
Hmm.
Robert Wool was, of course, in the first Batman with Michael Keaton. He was the one, said, give him a grant.
Yeah.
Robert Wool was
Bull Durham.
the pitching coach,
Bill Durham.
right? And Bull Durham, candlesticks make great gifts,
Yeah.
right? Which is a line he came up with on his own. So Robert Wool's in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, go ahead.
So he was on Facebook. I messaged him. And the next thing you know, or actually, that's not true. He messaged us and he said something about the show or something. And the next thing we asked him if he'd come on the show. And Robert Wool is a huge baseball fan. And he came on. We had a great discussion with him. And you can find that in our episodes. That one's out there. And you could find Robert Wool interview. But he shamed us. He was talking about barbecue. And he was talking about Kansas City, and he said, you have a barbecue podcast and you've never been to Kansas City? So, as Jeff said, for our 300th episode, we went to Kansas City. Now, if he had said, you've never been to Nashville, I guess we'd have to go there. But so far, nobody has shamed us. So, we have not been there yet.
I kind of figured I knew what you were going to say there, but I have such a soft spot in my heart for Kansas City because in 1968 with my dad, I saw a Chiefs and Jets game, and the Chiefs won on a Stenerud a field goal, and afterwards, Dad took me down to the stockyards, and we went to the Golden Ox, and it's a memory that is seared, excuse the term, in my memory.
There
I
you
wanted
go.
to ask you about your podcast. How do you find or how did you get sponsors?
Sponsors is that's really we're on this what we call the Believe Network. So they really we just have to put the time of where to put the ads in. We really don't have sponsors ourselves. They put the ads that they want to put in. We just have to tell them the time at what time of the podcast to put it in. Although we do have a relationship with a company called baseballbbq.com, and they have baseball handle barbecue tools,
Mm.
and they have cutting boards shaped as home plate, and they can be personalized and they can be customized. We don't get any money from them, and they don't get any money from us. But we do have a relationship where if we asked, like with Dave Dravecki, we sent him barbecue tools, and engraved on it was One Arm Bandit at his request. So we do have that kind of relationship with them. So it's really good. It works, helps us out both ways.
Yeah, one of the things we went when we started the show, like I said, we were on Buzzsprout. Then we took the paid version, but then what happens is you get a certain amount of minutes a month. So now you have to make sure you have the episodes fit that category and, I mean, that time. And if you go over, you pay more. Then we got in with this Believe Network, and now we could, if we wanted to, we could release an hour episode every day. We could release 2 hours every day. They do not care. You can do whatever you want. Those episodes are our episodes, but they are a hosting service, so we don't have to pay for that. We pay for Zoom, and they get the ads, and then all we do, like Jeff said, is we insert the ads where we want them in the show, and then based on number of downloads and whatever, we get a few shekels a month. But
Very, very few.
yeah, very few shekels.
One final comment on stadiums and barbecue. There's one college mascot where the mascot is actually barbecued, sold, and the smell wafts through the stadium. It is not Oregon. There's an ad on for something for University of Oregon, and some guy brings a duck in and he wants to barbecue it, and everybody just goes, "Get out of here!" That's terrible. At Virginia Tech at Lane Stadium, when you sit there, what you're smelling is turkey leg, huge turkey legs being barbecued, and everybody eats them. And we face the same situation that you do. You can't eat them all unless you're a large family and you share them. But we unabashedly eat our mascot after it's been barbecued. They have too much pride for that at Oregon, I guess. Thanks for your comments, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
A man whose name should be synonymous with barbecue, Mr. Dixie.
Actually, it should not be. I have a couple of nitty-gritty softball questions. The first one is, if Mr. Kendrick was your first interview, is he part of the lost episodes?
Actually, no, because we had him on more than once. So there is an episode out there with Mr. Kendrick on it.
Okay. When you do the actual podcast, where are you two people? Are you in the same place, different places on Zoom? How does that work?
Before COVID, we were in the same place. Now we're just like we're doing right now, except when we go out to have in-person interviews where we would just take our microphones and record that way.
And how long are your podcasts broadcasts usually?
Well, you can tell that we
Too
like
long.
to talk. So
there are long.
yes, we always say that if
there
you're
are
taking
long episodes.
if you're taking a trip,
but
like a long trip, if you're taking a long trip, our podcast is perfect because you may get there and the podcast may still be going, but you can pause them. That's the great thing. You pause them, come back to them, whatever you want. So we give
or if
two
you want
guests.
to listen just to the baseball pod,
Right.
or if you just want to listen to the baseball person or the barbecue guest, you can do it any way you want.
Yeah.
And where are you actually located yourselves?
I'm in Wantaw, Long Island. Len's in Belmore, Long Island.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dixie. Miss Barber.
Hey guys, so early on you mentioned that you had approached Greg Lazinski to be your first guest, but were somehow rebuffed until he had a book to peddle. Why on earth did he give you any reason? I mean, why would somebody refuse? I mean, you're so nice. Why would
Thank you.
somebody tell you
Well,
no? I'm just curious.
well, thank
What
you
did
for
you do to
that.
piss them off?
No, well, we thank you for that. The check hopefully will clear. And so what happened with Greg Luzinski was he was going to be our first. Okay, we heard that there was Bull's Barbecue at Citizens Bank Park. He hadn't written a book, but we heard that he's there at the stand and he sits there and walks around and talks to people. So we wanted to get an interview with him. It wasn't him who turned us down. I don't remember who turned us down,
Well,
but we couldn't.
we called the stadium, we called
Yeah,
somebody, and
right,
we wanted to go through their PR department, and they said, nah,
Oh,
no.
so
right.
you didn't approach him directly.
No, we didn't.
Maybe that was your mistake.
It could have
Yes.
been. It could have
Because
been.
I could not resist your appeal. So
Thank you.
thank you for inviting me on your show.
You were
Also,
terrific on our show. You
and
guys should
thank
listen to Perry Barber on our show. She is not one of the lost episodes.
well,
So,
we all like to talk, so we have a coffee clatch now and then, and it's always a lot of fun. But I wanted to thank you for mentioning Ed Hearn, who is the recipient of a kidney, not from his son Cody, but he is the recipient of a separate donor in what's called a paired kidney exchange. And it's a really amazing procedure where you don't have to match your recipient anymore. They can donate your kidney to somebody that you do match, and then another donor will donate a kidney to somebody that matches your blood type. So think about that if you ever have considered organ donation, because it can really save a life. So thank you for that. Also, very quickly, just in case anybody thinks that the 7 umpires that are retiring now, if you've been hearing about that, 7 major league umpires are retiring, among them Laz Diaz and a couple of, most hated umpires, apparently. So people are very happy about that, but they're under the mistaken impression that it will help accelerate Jen Paul's rise to the permanent status on the major league umpiring staff, but it really won't, because she is so far down the totem pole at this point. She just started working major league games last year. She has, I think, fewer than 20 under her belt right now. Most umpires do not get offered permanent status until they have at least 300 Major League
Wow.
Baseball games, some of them 400. I mean, one umpire, John Tumpane, waited 10 years. He worked 10 years as a part-timer before he got offered a permanent contract. So don't expect to see Jen Paul every day in the major leagues anytime soon, just because there are a lot of umpires retiring all at once now, because that's not going to happen. But she's got her eyes on the prize, so it will come in due time. I have all hope, but that won't be for at least 3 or 4 years. So
Thank you, Perry.
Thank you, Pat.
Mr. the Great Norm Coleman.
I hope Gabe Morales is one of those umpires who's retiring. Hi, guys.
hi.
not sure.
I got to tell you a comment that you were correct about Arthur Bryant's get the barbecue brisket sandwich. You're wrong about Barry Bonds, but we'll discuss that a different time. I was episode number 305. And so if someone asked how long these interviews are, I think mine was about an hour. And I'll tell you, you guys are not so-so. These guys are excellent. They're well prepared. They ask good questions. They're professional in what they do. And a guy that you did not mention was on one of your podcasts is a New York Mets World Series hero and 1989 National League MVP Kevin Mitchell.
That's right.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everyone knew that you can go back and see that episode if you want. You mentioned Jeremy Affeldt, and I was going to bring it up if you didn't, because he's perfect for baseball and barbecues. Did you guys talk about his barbecue incident when he was on?
We talked about his bar down that he has I believe, in Texas.
Texas, yeah.
I don't remember specifically about barbecue. Len, do you?
No, I don't specifically remember that either. But
Well, Jeremy Affeldt had an accident at his barbecue when he was trying to pry apart frozen hamburgers, and he
Oh,
sliced his
Yes,
hand.
he
yes, with the
did.
knife. Yeah,
With the
you're
knife,
right. He was.
yes.
I think yes. I think that we did mention that.
Yeah, we did talk about
Yeah,
that. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
Okay, that's all I got. I just wanted you guys
Well,
to know that these guys, they are great. They do a good job.
thank you. Can I
Thank you.
just say that Norm was a great guest. Perry's been on a couple of times. We were at an event. We were having Lexi Hastings on, who's going to be part of the women's league this summer, and I thought, what a great, what we try to do on the show. It's not just straight interviews. We bring on people that might add to it, and I knew Perry would add to it, so we brought her on. So she's been on a couple of times on the show. I don't know if I said Brett Moore is here, and he is one of the most knowledgeable and entertaining people with baseball that I have ever spoken to. We could have him on every episode. I don't know if you guys have had Brett Moore as part of your Zoom, but I'm going to tell you, listen to him on our show. He's been on a number of times. We had him on our Hall of Fame episode. I think Brett is so talented, and I cannot believe that he doesn't have a show on a station or something. He does incredible things with baseball. His talent is unbelievable. So I suggest that episode. Gary Mintz has been on our show. And then there was somebody else that I saw that I don't want to leave
Farley
anyone
Dillinger.
out.
Farley
What?
Dillinger. Farley Dillinger.
Yeah, but I'm saying on here that I saw.
Farley's here.
Oh, Farley's here?
Yes.
Oh, I can't see. I didn't see everyone that's here. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, Farley is great. Farley, hello. But I just want to thank everyone who see our guests. Once you're a guest on our show, you're like part of the family. You're part of the baseball and barbecue family, because without the guests, okay, we appreciate it. Jeff and I, when we started, we thought, okay, we're going to just talk and people will be interested in hearing what we have to say. But that didn't last long. If without the guests, it's just not the same. So for anyone who's been on the show, and if you have an interest in being on the show and you want to talk, we are always welcome to suggestions, or people that think they can contribute. We welcome it. So just wanted to thank
you,
everybody.
Len. And Norm, when you mentioned Jeremy Affeldt, Jim Mully was hoping he'd come out of retirement. So, future roommate Paul Ellis Graham.
Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you, Gary. I had two very quick comments. One is, when you mentioned Jeff Mangold, I taught with his wife, Gail, in Ridgewood High School. And so she was wonderful, and Jeff was nice. And they arranged for me to get tickets to see baseball games at Yankee Stadium. And I got to sit with the players' wives. I didn't like the Yankees. I didn't like the players, but their wives were fine.
Nice.
Yeah, it just really. But another story in New York, my brother was coming to visit, and he was staying at the Sheraton. And I get on the elevator with him, and all of a sudden I see this guy in black and gray hair in a loose-fitting shirt. And I look at him. He's got put on weight. It's Ron Guidry.
Oh.
So I'm wearing a Red Sox hat, and I said, "Oh, sorry, Ron. I know you were a great pitcher for the Yankees. I'm wearing a Red Sox hat. I hope you don't feel offended." You know what he didn't want to talk about, Fenway or the Red Sox? He said, "I love Boston for the food." So you might want to really reach out to Ron Guidry, because he loves to cook. Get this guy in your podcast, and I think you'd really, really enjoy it.
We are trying. I can tell you that. I tried to reach out a couple times. So hopefully one day.
He's from
And
Louisiana.
the only other thing I would suggest, if you guys ever are available in the winter and come down to Savannah, Georgia, where I winter, and you want good barbecue, please, I'll be glad to show you where I think the best barbecue is in Savannah. So if you want to come down, you're welcome. We'd love to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
That's very kind. Thank you.
Fellas. You're
Here
welcome.
come the judge, Jim Mully.
Thanks, Gary. Gentlemen, baseball and barbecue, I expected to hear Boog Powell's name.
Boog Powell, yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
he is
he's
one
been-
of yeah.
Was he a guest or wait?
Not
Can we,
yet.
if you can talk about stadium barbecues.
Yeah.
Boog's Barbecue in Camden Yards is I always thought was one of the best, but if there are others, love to hear them.
Yeah, we
Well,
haven't.
I have been to Boog's Barbecue years before the podcast, so I know what you're talking about. I wish we can get Boog on. Hopefully we'll make it down there one day before it's too late, and because his barbecue fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
what about other stadiums that might have well-known barbecue concessions?
Well, in Texas, I'm assuming we actually for our 400th episode, we're hoping to do a trip to Texas for Texas barbecue. I don't know at the stadiums if they have it, but they probably do. Citi Field actually has a couple. You got Mookie Wilson. So here's the thing: we haven't had Mookie on yet, but we've had his barbecue and we've met him in person.
Met him a couple times. Yep.
He has a barbecue stand at Citi Field, and you've got what do you call it? Pig Beach. So Pig Beach, if anybody's near Astoria, they have a great barbecue restaurant in Astoria, Queens, and they have a stand at Citi Field. So a couple of great barbecue places in Citi Field. So you wouldn't expect that, but
yeah, and
it is.
We recently had on the chef at Kaufman Stadium, who does barbecue, but the whole stadium, chef for the whole stadium. But he does take ideas from barbecue and makes certain dishes which has a barbecue flair to it. So he's actually on with Dale Strawberry. So
the other thing I'll mention is that I had never heard before tonight, and I'm embarrassed. I had never heard that there was a New York State Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So I was very interested to do that and to see that. I Googled it real quick while you guys were talking, and I was surprised to find out that one Johnny Antonelli is not in it. So he will have to be nominated, and we'll see what we can do to get him in there.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'm going to close it out with one comment and then one question. 2 weeks from now, I'm heading up to the Hall of Fame, and I'm looking forward to Brooks's barbecue. Jeff, you said you love chicken. To me, that's the best chicken I've ever eaten. I don't know what they do. They smoke it, but it is fabulous. And my question on a normal kettle grill, I love corn. I love when it's dark. The kernels are almost black. Do you cook it in the stalk? What's the best way? In the stalk, directly on the grill, or wrapped in aluminum foil?
So, okay, I'm going to take that one because I love grilling corn on there. And there's a lot of people who think you have to soak the corn in water. Not true. If you want to get it, you take the husk, take some layers of the husk off, and then put it on the grill. And you can actually, you don't even have to take the silk out, because at the end you can pull it down and take the silk out then. But if you want to get nice char on the corn, because you like the caramelization of the sugar, that's what makes it so great on corn. Take it down some levels, some layers, and you'll get the corn to get that nice char on it. So that's what you do. I would cook it in the husk, but take some layers down, and you don't need to soak it. It's very simple, but the husk acts as a protective layer. So, and I think it actually adds a little, I think you're getting some of the sweetness from the husk also, because, there are people that cook, there are dishes that they use husks for. So I think you get something from it too.
Let's all give it up for Jeff and Len. Jeff,
Thank you, Jeff.
The website is what?
www.baseballandbbq.weebly.com.
Thank you so much. And before you go, you said something, and I saw Harvey Weinberg. I think you mentioned Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, I did.
and Harvey gave me a look, and I was like, uh-oh, here we go. So
apologies.
No, you can't apologize for that one. That guy's doing 25 to life in 2 states on 2 coasts, and he ain't me, and I ain't him.
All right,
You-
we're gonna hang around if anybody wants to talk Giant baseball for a little bit. We will reconvene next Thursday with Ron Backer, and we'll revert back to the San Francisco and New York Giants. But we're gonna talk about Hindi had wanted something with baseball movies, and there's some related to the Giants there. So we'll do that next week. Until then, have a great week, and I'm gonna stop the recording. And if anybody wants to talk baseball, we'll be here. Gentlemen, thanks again. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
You guys mentioned Nash.